Welcome to lecture number 6. In this lecture, we are going to cover the following topics. So the first one is CSS Box Model, in which we will cover parts of a CSS Box Model, margin, padding, and border. Further, we are going to cover physical and logical style elements in HTML, and then we will be covering CSS Text Formatting. So moving on to the very first topic, that is CSS Box Model. The CSS box model as a whole applies to block boxes, and it defines how the different parts of a box, including margin, border, padding, and content, how they work together to create a box that you can see on a page. So the main purpose of a CSS box model is to allow the web developers and designers to control the size and the spacing on a web page accurately, and you can adjust the content size, padding, border, and margin properties. By doing this, you can achieve precise control over the layout and the spacing of elements on a web page. So let's try to consider the different parts of the CSS box model in this. So the first one is margin box. The margin is the outermost layer that wraps the content, padding, and border as white space between this box and other elements. So we can consider this margin as distance between the border and the edge of the viewport. We will be able to understand much better when we will be doing one practical related to this. Next one is border box. The border box wraps the content and any padding, size it using border and related properties. Then you have padding box. The padding sits around the content as the white space, and you can size it using padding and related properties. Further, we have the content box. This is the area where your content is displayed. This is how a CSS box model looks like. You can see that there's a box sitting over the web page. You see a black border. Then further you have some content inside it. The distance between the content and the border within this box will be called as the padding. Then the distance between the border and the edge of the viewport, generally the edge of the browser that we can consider here, this distance is called as a margin. The black colored thing that you see is a border, and anything that you write inside this box will be considered as the actual content in this box. So let's try to do one practical and understand how this works. To understand the CSS box model, let's create a new file and name it as lecture6.html. Press shift and exclamation. You got the HTML template. For the CSS box model, we need a div tag that should be capable of holding the text or the content inside the CSS box model. I'm already having some content which I have pasted here right now. You can also refer to the lipsum, also called as the random text that you can get online or can be generated online in order to test your web page with the text. So let's start the server right now. And this is how the text is looking like. There's nothing new. So because there's no styling applied in this text, we need to create one style tag within which we need to use the div tag as the selector. So first of all, we will give it width to the div. I'll be considering 300 px right now. Further, I need to give border. There are different border properties, such as, first of all, I'll be taking width, border width, and I'll write 25 px. This is the width that I want right now. Then we have border style. I'll be considering solid border style for the time being. And further, I'll be using border color. In border color, I'll take dark blue. So let's save, and this is how the box is looking. Further, I'll also use some padding. So padding, I'll take it as 50px. 50px. And you can see that the space, this is our content right now. The whole thing is a content. The space between the border and the content, or you can say the distance between the border and the content, is called as the padding. Further, we are also going to use margin. Now margin I'll be taking as 50px. So just look at the changes that we can see right now, that the margin, that the box has been shifted 50px towards the right hand side. So this means that we want to give the equal margin from all the four sides. So what your web page will do, it will try its best to give the 50px margin from all the four sides. So this is what is the CSS box model. You can also make this text justified by using text align as justify. So your text is now justified. Now we know that this particular part is the margin, this is the border, further we have the padding, and then this is the content. Okay, we do understand, but what exactly is the purpose here? So let's try to understand this now. To understand the practical application of a CSS box model in real-world websites, you need to right-click on this web page and click on Inspect. Or you can also use the shortcut key Ctrl Shift and I. You need to press them together. You will get the same thing. So when you click on Inspect, you will be able to see one window. There you need to select this Elements tab. So right now I'm zooming in this window for you. So when you zoom in, you see whenever we are placing a cursor over a certain element, it is highlighting it. So right now I'm placing my cursor over this div tab. You can expand it as well. So wherever I'm placing the cursor, it is highlighting that specific part. Right now I'm placing the cursor over the content. It is highlighting the content. When I'm placing the cursor over the div, it is highlighting the complete div, including margin, padding, border, and content. So right now you click on this and you will be able to see some styles here which we have already applied in our file. So what is the purpose right now? What do the developers do by opening this inspect element? They test the web pages. They try to understand the different properties by making changes, how the web page looks like without even modifying the original file. So right now you can see I'm placing my cursor over the margin property. It is highlighting the margin on the left hand side. So whenever I'm placing the cursor over the padding, it's highlighting the padding part. We have already seen if we place the cursor over the content, it is highlighting the content as well. Now for the border, it's not right now highlighting. The reason is we are not using the shorthand property. So what we can do, if you want to make any changes, you simply deselect this as well, and I'll change this property to simple just border. What you need to write here, you need to now combine all the three properties of border, width, style, and color. I'm writing here 25px solid dark blue. So as you can see that when I'm hovering the cursor, when I'm placing the cursor over the border, it's highlighting the border as well. This is a shorthand property. So we should have used this shorthand property in our file. And further, we do have width as well. And if you want to, let's say if you deselect any of the property, for instance, I'm deselecting this, you will be able to see that the width property is no longer applicable. or you want it back again, just select and you can further change the value. Let's say if I keep it 500 px, it has increased the width to 500 px. Further, if you want, let's say I also want some background color. So right now I'll be placing a background color here. And let's say I'll write background, and that's here, background color. Well, let's take anything. So, okay, this color is not really visible. I'll change this to some other color. Let's say I'm taking yellow right now. So, yes, you can see that the background color has now changed. So, this is what is the purpose of inspect element. And also, in order to test the box model, we can use this inspect element window and test the web page. But are we really going to create boxes only on the web page? The main context is that whatever the element, be it a form element, let's say you are inserting a button, you are inserting a text area, or you are inserting a text box, whatever the element you are inserting on the web page, each and everything can be applied a box model, because definitely any element can have some padding inside it, or content inside it, or the margin from left, right, top or bottom, and similarly for the padding as well. So this is what is the purpose of CSS box model. Now, after understanding the practical application of CSS box model in real world websites, let's now focus upon the shorthand properties. So first of all, we will combine these three properties, that is width, style and color, to only border. So in the border, the first value is always the width. So we will mention 25 px. Second value is always the kind of border that you want, that is the border style. So I'll mention solid. Or let's say if you want to use any other border, right now I'll be using ridge, which is another kind of style in the border. The last border, the last value is the color of your border, and I'll write dark blue. So it has done the changes accordingly. This is a shorthand property, and it's always recommended by the developers. Second one is a padding. Now what shorthand property we can use here? When we are writing one value, it means that it will try its best to consider the equal value, that is 50 px from all the four sides. But we may not always want to have the same value for the padding from the top, right, bottom and left. We may want to have different values. So for this, you have one way, that is you can use properties such as padding top, padding right, padding bottom and padding left. Same for the margin, you can have margin top, margin left, margin right, margin bottom and then margin left. But it's not recommended, it will increase the number of lines of your code. So right now, I'll be mentioning 4 different types of padding in the same property. The first value is always for the top, that is the distance between the content, the top part of the content and the top part of the border. That is called as the padding top property. So the first value will be the padding from the top. Second value will be for, let's say if I write here 90 px, that is for the padding right. Third value is for the padding bottom. I'll mention 45 px. And the last value, let's say 70 px, will be for the left padding. And you can see that it has adjusted accordingly. Top one is 50, right one is 90. The last one, that is the bottom one, is 45 and the left one is 70. Hope you now understand. Same can be applied for the margin as well. If I copy all these 4 values and apply to the margin as well, so it will adjust it accordingly. But this is not the end right now. Right now we have specified 4 values. You should also understand what if there are just 2 values defined in the padding property. After you have saved your file, after deleting the two values, when you save your file, you will notice that the first value is for the top and the bottom, while the second value will be applied to the right and left. Similarly, if you have three values, I'll specify one more value here. After saving the file, you will notice that the first value is applied to the top, the second value is applied equally to left and right, while the last, that is the third value, is applied for the bottom. And same thing you can check for the margin as well. If you have just two values, the first value will be applied for the top and the bottom, while the second value will be applied for the left and right. Now if you have three values, then you will notice that first value will be for the top margin, the second value will be applied equally to left and right margin, while the last value, that is the third value, will be for the bottom margin. So hope this is understandable. Let's now have a quick recap on the different parts of CSS Box Model. The first one is margin. So margin is an invisible space around your box, and it will push other elements away from the box if you have more than one element on your web page. Margins can have either positive values or negative values. Till now, we only worked with the positive values. So if you set a negative margin on one side of your box, can cause it to overlap the other things on the web page. If you have more than one element and there is not enough space on the web page, so definitely if you specify negative margins, your elements are bound to overlap. These different four properties we have covered as a shorthand property in just one property, that is margin. Next one is borders. The border is drawn between the margin and the padding of a box. We actually have a lot to do with the borders. Till now we have covered border width, style and color, and further we combine these three properties into one property, that is just border, and we specified the width, style as well as the color. But sometimes you may not want the border from all the four sides. For that we can have border top, right, bottom and left. So when you apply these properties, it will specifically be applied only towards that specific direction. So in borders, we have these different variations. So if you want to apply a top width, you can use border top width. Style from the top will be used at border top style. Color from the top is border top color. Similarly, if you want everything from the right hand side, you can use border right width, border right style, border right color. From the bottom, you can use border bottom width, border bottom style, border bottom color. And everything, if you want from the left hand side, you can use border left width, border left style, and border left color. So let's implement all these and try to understand how these work. We will now comment out the original border property in order to understand the different variations of border. So for now, I need to apply border only in the bottom of the element. So first of all, I'll use border bottom width, and the width I want is 25px, that is as used previously. Then I need border bottom, I need color I use red. Then border bottom, I need style, I'll be using ridge style. You can see that the border has been applied only at the bottom of the element. Similarly, if you write here top, right or left, the changes will be made accordingly. The point is, are we really required to use all these three properties? No. So the answer is that you can use the shorthand property here as well by simply using border bottom. So mention the first value as the width, second value should be the kind of style that you want to apply, and the third value should be the color. And you can see after saving, there is no change, which means that this is the shorthand property that we can use here. Now you can apply the different types of border from all the four sides by using border top, border left and border right, and mentioning the width, the kind of border, and the color of the border. But you will have to write this property then 4 times, as we will be using border bottom, border top, border right, and left. So there's no need to use it 4 times. This time, again, the properties border width, color, and style will come into picture. So all you have to define is 4 different values. Border width. In the border width, you can specify 4 different values, as we know that whatever the first value we define is for the top, second value is for the right, third value is for the bottom, and the last value, that is the 4th value, is for the left hand side. So you can have 10 px for the top, then 20 px for the right, the third value is for the bottom, you can have 50 px, and the last one we can consider only 5 px. This is border width. So right now no changes will be there, as we have not specified the border style. So we need border style as well. You may need different border styles from all the 4 sides. The first one will be for the top, second one will be for the right, third one is for the bottom, while the last one, that is the 4th one, is for the left. So you can see that it has applied the border style and width in black color, because we have not yet mentioned the color. Now if you want to specify different colors, then you may write border color, and in border color you can specify different colors for all the 4 sides. Right now I'm randomly using red, green, blue, and let's say I'm using yellow or yellow green. So what do you see right now? The first value is applied to the top border, second one is applied to the right hand side, that is green, third value is for the bottom, and the last value is for the left hand side, that is for the green. Same, you can see that the top border is having 10 px thickness, while the second one, the second value, that is the right border, is having 20 px thickness. Then the border bottom is having 50 px thickness, while the left one, the left border, is having 5 pixel thickness. So this way, now you should understand that the shorthand properties are actually applicable everywhere. It all depends on your requirement. Next is padding. The padding sits between the border and the content area and is used to push the content away from the border. In other words, it will simply increase or decrease the space within the element. Unlike margins, you cannot have a negative padding. So you can have negative values in margin, but cannot have a negative value in padding. Any background applied to your element will display behind the padding. These are the different properties, but we already have used these properties as the shorthand property by defining all these 4 values as top, right, bottom, and left. Now that we are done with the CSS box model, let's proceed further to the next topic, that is physical and logical style elements in HTML. This is not a part of CSS, but if you remember, we already have covered the text formatting in HTML. But we have to differentiate among those tags that which are physical and which are logical style elements. Let's understand first of all the physical style elements. These are the elements that are primarily used for defining the appearance and presentation of content. And they are traditionally used for styling and layout purposes. Traditionally here means that we don't use any CSS, only using HTML. These elements are often associated with visual formatting and are considered somewhat outdated in modern web development, as the recommended practice is to use CSS for the styling. So some examples of physical style elements. B tag, that represents the bold text. I represents the italicized text. U represents the underlined text. Strike for strike through text. Font, used for specifying font attributes like size, color, and face. Some of these are already covered, but we will have a quick example in order to understand these physical elements once again. We already have these tags here right now: bold, italics, underline, and strike through. And you can see the output here according to all these tags. The last one is using a font tag in which we are using size and color attribute. And there is a simple text written over here. And accordingly, the size and color attributes are being applied. All these elements are physical style elements. So physical style here means that gives a visual appearance to your text. Like these, we already have done few more types of formatting tags in the previous lectures that you can refer to. Now further, we are required to compare these physical style elements to the logical style elements. So let's proceed. Let's proceed to the logical style elements. The logical style elements, also called as semantic elements, are the HTML elements that convey some special meaning and structure of the content rather than its presentation. These elements are designed to describe the purpose or the function of the content they enclose, making it easier for both humans and the search engines to understand the document's structure and content. The main point is that in physical style elements, we focus more upon their visual appearance. Whatever the tag we use, we already know that how the text is going to look like. For example, we use B, it means that it's going to look bold. We use U, it means that it's going to look underlined. If we use I, it means that it is going to look italicized. So here that is not the case. We focus more upon their semantic value of the text. So let's see that what are the different tags that we will use here. So the different examples are ABBR, which is for the abbreviation. We yet don't know that how exactly it's going to look like, but yes, we have a tag called as abbreviation, that is ABBR. Similarly for the acronym, and then we have address to define an address element. We have cite for the citation, code to define computer code text, block quote to define a long quotation, del for the deleted text, DFN for defining a definition term, INS for the inserted text, and then we have KBD for keyboard text, pre, that is for the pre-formatted text, Q for the short quotation, SAMP to define the sample computer code. So from all these tags right now, it is not evident that how the text is going to look like. So that we will be able to understand when we check the output. But yes, we are focusing more upon their meaning, more upon their semantic, more upon the logic. We are not yet caring about how they are going to visualize on the web page as compared to the physical style elements. So maximum of these already have been covered in the previous lectures. Right now we are just going to differentiate them. So let's implement all these right now. We already have the different logical style elements over here. The first one, which is showing dotted lines below this text, it is actually ABBR, which is the abbreviation. So you must remember, whenever we are using any abbreviation, any short form within the abbreviation tag, it will be underlined. Within this, we use an attribute called title where we write down the full form. Then we also have acronym, which is exactly like the abbreviation tag. Here also we have the title attribute where the value is the full form, while the actual abbreviation or the short form will be within the acronym tag. So this is also looking exactly the same as the abbreviation tag. Then further, we have the address tag, which is used for defining the address, and this is how your address looks like. You can also see that it is italicized, but we initially did not know that it is going to show us an italicized text because we did not care about the visualization. We were more focusing upon the logical part, that is on the semantic, on the meaning. So we only know that this is going to insert an address. Next is cite. So for the citation, we specify whatever you want to cite inside the cite tag and the rest of the text outside the cite tag. So whatever you write in the cite tag will be italicized. Further, we have block quote, which was already covered in the previous lectures. So the text that you write within the block quote tag will be having some indentation from the left hand side. Means there will be some space from the left hand side. And you want to give some citation to the specific quotation, you can use the cite attribute within the block quote tag. Further, you have some deleted text. So we did not know that the deleted text would actually look like a strike through. So right now we know that it is going to visualize as a strike through text. So looks like exactly a strike through, but really it is not because we are focusing more upon the meaning. This is just a deleted text. Further, we have an inserted text. Inserted text will always show an underline below it. Then further, we have the definition. So in the definition, you can see a definition has been written, which is also showing an italicized text. Then you have KBD. KBD is for the keyboard input, and this is how the keyboard input looks like. Then you have the pre-formatted text. The pre-formatted text lets you to have your text exactly the way you want. Means if I'm using these many spaces in my HTML file, those many spaces it is going to insert in front of that text. So it will exactly show twinkle twinkle little star the way it is mentioned in the HTML file. So there is no difference. Then you have Q, which is for the short quotation. A short quotation is always inserted within inverted quotes. Then SAMP is for the sample computer code, and this is how the text would look like. Finally, we have the strong. Strong is to make your text strong, but now we know that it is looking exactly like bold. The tags mentioned in physical and logical style elements are now deprecated or are obsolete. So many of them should not be used for the purpose of text formatting. So that is why now we have CSS Text Formatting. The CSS provides a variety of text formatting properties that allow you to control the appearance and styling of text within the HTML elements. These properties help you to customize the font, size, color, alignment, decoration, and other aspects of text in your web pages. So the first one is font family, that specifies the font family or typeface to be used for your text. Then you have font size to set the size of the text characters. Font weight to define the thickness or boldness of the text. Font style to specify the style of the font. For example, you want to have it as italics, then you can use italic. Color to set the color of your text. Text align to determine how the text is horizontally aligned within its container. You can use left, center, right, or justify. Then you have text align last. So this will specify how to align the last line of the text. The direction property changes the text direction of an element. Then we have text decoration color. So this specifies the color of the text decoration lines. The next one is text decoration line. It will set the kind of decoration that is used on text in an element, such as an underline or overline. Then next we have text decoration style. So this will set the style of the text decoration, like you can have solid, wavy, dotted, dash dot, double. Then we have text decoration, which is a shorthand property for above 3. So this will be able to set the appearance of decorative lines on the text. It's a shorthand for text decoration line, color, and the style. Then we have text indent, used for defining the indentation of the first line in each block of text. And it can also take the negative values. Next is word spacing. This will adjust the space between the words in a block of text. Then we have line height. It will set the vertical space between the lines of text, and it can affect the readability and aesthetics of the text. Then letter spacing controls the space between individual characters. Then we have text shadow. This will be able to add a shadow effect to the text, providing depth and emphasis. So now let's implement all these properties. To understand the CSS text formatting properties, we'll insert a paragraph. And to this paragraph, we will give an ID. ID equals to, let's say, P1. The same ID we are going to use in the style tag so that we can style the paragraph according to few CSS text formatting properties. So when we use ID, we always use hash P1. Now the first property we are going to use is font family. Already this property has been used previously in the previous lectures. Then after this we have font size. The font size I want to mention is 20px. Then we have font weight. Font weight lets us to give boldness to our text. So I'll give bold here, and it is already bold. You can see at the right hand side. So after font weight, we have font style. So by default, it's always normal. I'll prefer now italic. The text has now been italicized. Now further, after this we have color property. I'll mention crimson. And then we have text align. If I specify center, the text will be centralized. But right now I'll prefer justify. Next property is text align. Text align last. So this property will make the last line of your text according to whatever you specify, center, justify, left or right. So by default it is now left. If I write here center, it will become centralized. If I write here right, then it will become towards the right hand side. Next property is direction property. For this, I'll be inserting one more paragraph and give the text as this is another paragraph. ID I'll give as P2. So moving on to the style tag, and we have to specify hash and then P2. So in this, we have to specify the direction. Right now you can see that this is how the paragraph is looking normally. Let's zoom in. Right now it's looking normally. And if I specify here that I want this text from right to left, then I can write RTL. RTL means that you want the text to be written from right to left. And if you specify LTR, it's from left to right, and by default it's always LTR. Next property is text decoration line. Text decoration line. And the kind of line that we want can be the line through, overline, or underline. So right now I'm using overline. You can see a red colored overline appears. So how this red color is appearing, it is taking the same color as that of the text. Now if you want to change the color, you can have text decoration color. Let's say we need blue. So the color will be changed to blue. Further, we also have that what kind of style for the text decoration do we want. Text decoration style, let's say we can have double. So it will show you double lines above the sentences, above every text. So further, you can test other kinds of text decoration styles as well. For example, if you use dotted, and this is how it's going to look like. But we do have one shorthand property for the same. If I comment all these three properties, the shorthand property for this is text decoration, only text decoration. And the value that we can define is, we can define overline, blue, and dotted. So you can see that there is no change. It means that this shorthand property can also work here. Then further, we have text indent. Text indent I'll be using. So text indent means that you want to give some space to your paragraph from the left hand side. So if I use 20px here, so it will give some indentation. It's used to define the indentation of the first line in every paragraph, in each block of text. You can also specify more value, let's say 100, and you can see that it has given more indentation. Next property is word spacing. The purpose of word spacing is to adjust the space between the words. If I write here 50px, you will observe that every word stands at a distance of 50px from the other word. Further, we have line height. Line height property is used for increasing or decreasing the space between the sentences, or in other words, you can say to adjust the vertical space between the sentences. So every sentence here in the output is at a distance of 50px from the other sentence. Next property we have is letter spacing, just like the word spacing. Now if I write here 10px, you will observe that every letter will be at a distance of 10px from the other letter. Further, we have text shadow, that is used for applying shadow to your text. So here in this, the first value in the text shadow, the first value will be the shadow in the horizontal direction. How much shadow do you need in the horizontal direction? I need is 10px. Second value is the vertical direction. That is how much shadow do you require in the vertical direction. We need 5px. Third value is the blur radius. But let's see that what we see right now. You can see that a shadow has been applied. You can observe that the text is literally repeated. Well, this really doesn't look good. So we have to blur the shadow a bit. So this is what the third value stands for. That is the blur radius. You can give, let's say, 5px. And you can see that now the shadow is looking a bit better as to the previous one. So the last value will be that what color do you want? You can apply, let's say if I need blue color, and this is how it has applied the shadow. But we can increase this value. 10px seems fine. Right. So a text shadow has now been applied. Then last one is text transform. In text transform, you can either give capitalize. If you give capitalize, every letter of the first letter of every word will be capitalized. Similarly, you can set it to, let's say, uppercase or lowercase accordingly. So these are all the different kinds of CSS text formatting. We have completed all the topics to be covered in this lecture. These are the references that should be used in order to understand all these topics in a better way. These are the program links. First one is for the CSS Box Model. Second one is for physical and logical style elements. And the last one is for CSS Text Formatting. Now the week 6 assignment, you need to go to the website FreeCodeCamp and complete all the steps right from 1st to 45 for learn the CSS Box Model by building a Rothko painting. I have also pasted a screenshot for the same. So there are only 45 steps in this specific task. That's all for lecture number 6.